Good morning, everyone. It is Friday today, actually, and before I introduce my guest to you, uh, got my blood test. My thyroid level is a little low, so I got to take some thyroid medication a little bit. No wonder it seems like I was depressed and I was sleeping all the time because of the pandemic or whatnot, and it was hard to work out. You go to the gym, you go in front of the gym, and you listen to the music in your car, and after about an hour, you go back to home and never worked out. I was like, but my guest to you is a good friend of mine, really. He's probably going to tell me how I met him, but I remember meeting him at Salsa Bar. Um, Me and Isidro were there at that time, and he bought me a beer, and at that time the beer was named Bachata. I think it's from Cuba or whatnot. But that's how I met him. And of course, he was at my workshop, my first workshops in London, where Danny has hosted it, and it was a small group really, and most of them were really teachers and pros about Bachata traditional, Bachata Dominicana. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pierre Henry.
Hi there. Nice to meet you.
How are you, sir?
Yeah, it's all good. That wasn't the first time we met, though.
What was the first time we met, dude?
It was back at Sexy and Central years ago.
Well, but that's that like what year? Because I was at the very first Sexy Central.
Yeah,
Or
so did I. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yeah. Were you
That's
already
nine,
were
I
you
think.
already a DJ then?
Yeah, yeah,
I just don't remember a lot of things because I know probably okay. Then I met you. Then I met Julian. Then I met Maury.
yeah.
Uh, I remember Julian and Maury used to carry all this video camera all the time.
It's funny you call him Murray because everyone knows him as Biscuit.
I know. He changed his name because I probably Facebook didn't allow it, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, they videotaped me actually in Bachatando in Brussels during
Yeah.
a festival. They never posted it. That
It
was
was,
a waste of time, guys.
he's
Jesus.
probably got it somewhere. He'll probably dig it out one day.
One day, probably when I run for president, then they're gonna put it against me or something.
Yeah,
But
no, 'cause I've been at every single Sexy and Central festival that there was.
that's one of the
I was
few
there.
festivals in Europe I enjoy, really. Not to mention they dance until 6 a.m. and
Yeah.
that's not usual in at least in that side of Europe. Uh,
No, in Europe nowadays, that's
Nowadays,
pretty.
I remember when Nanda used to do her Bachatanta festival, you could only party until 2, 3 a.m.
Yeah,
Can't go
no,
past that. Yeah.
no, but I think nowadays they even party till like 10, 11 in the morning. I remember at Bachata in Madrid one year, I was DJing for about 6 hours solid, and I went on partying until 11 o'clock in the morning.
Dude, you DJ'd for 6 hours solid? That's a long freaking time, man. Was it a
Well,
bachata room or just everything?
no, Bajata, 100% Bajata.
Now, that's good, man, because
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you really have to like deep, dig deep there with music and all of that stuff, right?
yeah, you got to keep the flow going.
Yeah.
So but yeah, no, I partied till 11 o'clock in the morning, and then I was so drunk, and I went to bed, and then I had to get up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to DJ for the afternoon set. And when I came down to DJ, the girls were like, "Dude, we can still smell the drink on you, man."
I could never tell whether you're drunk or not, by the way, dude. You're chill. I mean, you're chill. I mean, I know you're a Leo. I
Yeah,
am a Cancer Leo, and I do have that Leo tendencies, but you're just chill, dude.
there's no point being not chilled.
But look, this is part two. Ladies and gentlemen, this is part two, Bachata versus Bachata traditional versus modern versus sensual. And I know, it's like against each other. No, that's not really it. That's just a title, guys. Relax. But I brought Pierre here. Part one was Dima, because he's very passionate about traditional. Pierre here I brought because he is one of the most logical person when it comes to discussing things like this. And he really does break it down. And later on, we're going to talk about his website, about breaking down music and all of that stuff. And this is the reason why he's here also, because he's able to break down this stuff when it comes to remixes and other stuff and what's missing and whatnot. Let's get to the first question. We don't have a script. We don't have a plan to talk about, but we know the subject will just go as is, so that it doesn't become robotic. Is that okay, Pierre?
Yep. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So you mentioned on part one, when you were commenting, that about feeling the music, okay?
Yeah.
And it was Daniel's question, of course. And I told Daniel, I was like, look, if you make too many moves, you're going to lose that feeling of the music because you're so busy doing certain moves. Then you come into the response like, you mean to say Super Mario Brothers, all the people that are known for having a lot of movements in salsa, you mean to say they're not feeling it? Explain.
Because like it doesn't matter how many moves you've got, whether you've got one move or 100 moves. Feeling the music is just about how you use those moves and when you use those moves. So I mean, like if you take like guitar as an example,
Yeah.
like someone like Eddie Van Halen, right? He plays like 100 notes a minute, right? But he's still feeling the music.
You could tell it in his face.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's the same with dancing. I mean, just because a person has lots of moves in their vocabulary, it doesn't mean that they can't feel the music.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when people talk about feeling the music, it's one of the most phrases that I hate most, right?
Well,
Because when you tell a student to feel the music, they have no frame of reference
it's a
to
gray
understand.
area. You're right. They don't have any frame of reference. So how can we determine it?
Right? Feeling the music is primarily about it's about your relationship with music. It's about how you listen to the music, about how you understand what's going on in the music, and how you relate to it. So when they say, "Oh, just feel it," the students there is like, I don't understand. What do you mean, feel it? Right? So it's our job as teachers to be able to break that down for them.
As a dance teacher, you yourself,
Yeah.
how do you then teach it? Can it be taught?
This is an argument I've got into like lots of times, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe it's something that can be taught, but it's something that you have to learn, right? And that's funny for me because I teach musicality classes all the time, right?
Yeah.
But what I do in my musicality classes is I give the students the tools that they need to learn musicality for themselves, right? Because you can't go to a musicality workshop for 1 hour and expect to come out of that workshop with musicality, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you what you need to listen to. I can tell you how to break it down for yourself, but you need to go away and listen to the music off the dance floor in your own quiet settings and listen to it in what we call an active way rather than a passive way. So breaking it down, listening to the bongo, listening to the guira, listening to the bass, listening to the vocals, breaking down the different sections of the song, the verse, the chorus, the intro, what's happening in these things, how do we transition between these things. And the people who have musicality, it's not that they know a lot of music theory, it's just that they've spent a lot of time doing that breakdown subconsciously. So when they're standing there making their coffee in the morning, they're not just, the music's not just in the background. They're actually sitting there. They're breaking down. Oh, that's the bass line, and you can see while they're making their coffee, they're dancing while they're making it, because their relationship with music is different to someone who doesn't have musicality.
Yeah.
Does that
I
make
mean, don't
sense?
you think that most dancers interpret the music the way the beat is flowing, and therefore it dictates how their body moves, or their knowledge of their limited knowledge of movement, I should say. Don't you think that dictates it, uh, as opposed to knowing the theory of the music? It's like, okay, this is 4 beats. Oh, okay, this is 3 beats. Maybe, therefore, I should dance this way. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I mean, being able to understand the beat and the pulse of the song is just like level one musicality,
Sure.
right? So you need to be able to follow the beat. You need to be able to stay in time with the beat. And that's what we talk about when we talk about timing, right? So timing is that most sort of fundamental relationship between the
Yeah.
dancer and the music. So yeah, everyone has to have timing, but that's not necessarily what I would call musicality, right? It's just that's just basic dancing level one. If you don't have timing, you're not dancing.
Okay. So we haven't talked about this yet. Since we touched timing, let's talk about this because I'm from old school. You're from old school. Some of our comrades in bachata believes that when it comes to even just when it comes to traditional bachata, even in the Dominican Republic, they don't count. They don't do counting. They don't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 while they dance. They just go with the beat. Whether that's 4 beats or not, it doesn't matter. But when it comes to salsa, when it comes to the Western world, I would say, uh, what can I say? 90% of the time, dance are taught in numbers. Dance are taught in timing. Uh, if you, my issue here is why is it that modern, sensual, and even bachatango maintain their timing? And why is it that traditional does not?
Because these more modern styles of dancing have evolved through the dance school environment, if you like. So there's been more academic structure put to the way that it's taught, the way that it's learned. It's often taught in group settings and stuff. But when you're talking about like traditional dances, folkloric dances, then those are not, they're just passed from person to person, from father to son, from mother to son, from cousin to cousin, right? No one is actually telling you, oh, you have to do a box step and do an inside turn and do all these different movements. It's just what you pick up from the people around you.
Mhm.
So it's a different way of teaching and a different way of learning.
But how do you reconcile the dancing on old timings versus you have a follow in front of you who has
Okay,
to follow you?
so dancing on all timings, right? This is an age-long discussion that we have many times, right?
Of course, yeah.
The way that I see it is that yes, people do dance on all four different counts, right? Just as people dance cha-cha-cha on all four different counts. People dance son on all four different counts, right? So it's not that it's wrong, but it's not musically correct.
Of course, because if you're thinking you're playing a guitar in a full band, okay,
Yeah,
you get out of timing, dude, they're gonna kill you.
yeah, exactly. So it's like if you imagine the bongo, you know the bongo in
Yes,
Bajata,
yes,
right? The bongo can't just decide, oh, I'm going to start on the two, or I'm going to start on the three, or I'm going to
yeah,
start on the four. He has to start on the one, otherwise it doesn't make sense,
yeah.
right? And when we talk about, there's a lot of talk about basics, right? And when we're talking about basics as dancers, what people think about basics is just moving their feet, right? But basics, in a musical sense, the basics that we create with our feet are a physical manifestation of a rhythm,
Correct,
right? And
correct.
that rhythm is related to rhythms in the music. So if you move that rhythm by one beat, it's no longer the same rhythm,
I agree. I
right?
agree.
So you're playing with musical concepts and misunderstanding them, right? And and I understand that like people used to get very upset with me. They're like, you can't tell them that they're doing it wrong because that's their native dance,
Right,
right?
right.
And I agree with you. You can't tell them that they're doing it wrong, but by the same token, it's not right. It's like language, right? So when you come to London and people are speaking English at you, they're not speaking it correctly. They're not speaking the Queen's English. They're not using proper grammar. They're using conjunctions. They're using colloquialisms and everything else. It's the same with dance. Dance is a language, and when you're speaking it colloquially, you don't necessarily follow all of the rules of the language, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way that I've always understood it. It's not that they're doing it wrong. But if you were to look at it from a musical's perspective of how the dance relates to the music, there are reasons why you step on the first beat or the second beat or the third beat, right? And these are related to things in the music.
Well, the Dominicanos, and I'm talking about the Dominicanos that has not been schooled when it comes to dance. Uh, Sometimes they start on two, sometimes they start on one, sometimes they start on three, or even on numbers, but they can't maintain that timing. It changes.
Yeah.
It's understandable for me personally if it changes at the half of the song. If it changes at the half of the song and maintain that beat, that's okay. But if it changes every 30 seconds, then I would put it as okay, then this dancer is not an advanced dancer. This dancer is still in the beginner level because he doesn't have a sense of timing. He doesn't have,
Or they're just a social dancer,
yeah.
not even a beginner.
And I don't mean to say he doesn't have a sense of timing. I mean he doesn't have a sense of the concept of maintaining the timing
Yeah.
during the dance. Uh, and I know that the traditionalists, most of them actually dance on time, but some of them does not. Who never, because like I said, they've never went to school and studied dancing. How do we apply this timing though, Pierre, when it comes to dancing? How do we? I mean, we know the music, the band leader, the singer, the bongo player, the guitarist has to be on time. Okay, they have so that they can be in unison. Okay,
Hmm.
but what about dancing? Because we see some people there that does not dance on time,
Hmm.
and and it's okay. I've been dancing in all timings, and the mujer follow me. Like what you don't know is that the mujeres adjust to your timing every time, so she scrambles. you know,
Well, it depends who you speak to. If you speak to Carlos Sinter, he says you're supposed to be following her. You're
well,
supposed to be following her timing.
it goes both ways. It goes both like
Exactly.
the very first time I went to the Dominican Republic, I was used to the side to side traveling side to side
Yeah.
first. So when I was doing that, I went to the left. She's still there, and so I was like, okay. And then so I was like, okay, you dance, I'll follow, and that's what I did.
But I mean, these things they come down to a matter of etiquette, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like when you go there, you have to follow the etiquette of the country, of the environment that you're dancing in, right? And I mean, even in Europe, if you go to a Latino club, the way that you ask someone for a dance in a Latino club versus a salsa club
yeah,
is very different. So it's all about understanding the culture and the etiquette of where you are dancing and
yeah,
who you're
yeah.
dancing with. So I
Do you
don't
think
think
that?
that.
Do you think the beginner should be taught the uh, uh, musicality concept already from the get go?
I do because I do it from the get go, right? But it depends what you talk about, what you mean when you say musicality, and
Well, most
it's not
beginners.
like they come into first class and I tell them, oh, this is the bongo, this is the guira, this is the bass guitar, and everything.
Of course,
Right?
that would be too advanced for them. But I'm talking
Yeah,
about the timing where they can find the one, and most of them cannot find the one.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah. No, definitely.
yeah. Now let's talk about remix of music. Okay.
Hmm.
So now we have bachata artists, bachata singers, Raulín Rodriguez, Romeo Santos, Toby Love, Dominic Marte, all of those. Okay.
Yeah,
And then we have secular music. Should I call them secular? Pop music, like Billie Eilish, all of this non-Latin type of music.
yeah.
Most of them are in English. Then
Hmm.
there are these bachata DJs that takes that music and
Hmm.
remix it with the beat of bachata and makes it
Yeah,
four beats. or at least that's how I know, or that's what I hear it,
Hmm.
Now, are all remixes really bachata music, or when you remix a music of bachata, can you change the structure of it?
Not all remixes are bachata remixes, 100%, right?
Okay.
Because they're when people think when people who don't know about the music or think about bachata, what's the first thing they think about? It's bongos and guira. It's the
Bongos.
percussion. It's the
Yeah, yeah,
percussion,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So, so that's how
Or the
the
lead
whole
guitar.
remix.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
that's how the whole remix culture started. They started by taking a pop song and dropping a bongo and a guira on top of it, and this was a bachata remix,
yeah.
right? But it's not,
It's
okay,
not. Yeah.
right?
What makes it not?
Um, because when you're talking about categorizing music, especially Latin music, you're talking about families of rhythms,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
And these rhythms are not created by any one specific instrument. They're created by multi-layering of different instruments, right? So the bongo pattern that you hear in bachata, the martillo rhythm, is not specific to bachata. That martillo rhythm is also used in son, it's used in cha cha cha, it's used in bolero. I mean, it's used in all of these different genres. So
correct.
to say just because it's got a bongo that it's bachata is
Yeah,
wrong,
yeah,
right? Same with the guira. The guira patterns that are used in bachata are also used in merengue, right? So
yeah,
you can't say from any of those instruments on their own that it's bachata. It's only when you have the five instruments together and you look at the rhythm that those instruments create as a whole that you can say, okay, now this is bachata,
mm.
right?
What do you think is missing in all of these remixes then? I mean, they're popular because obviously it's urban and obviously it has familiarity with the general audience because of the popularity of the song that's
Yeah,
being remixed.
I mean, the obvious thing that's missing is the guitars, right? And the
There are
reason
two types of
is,
guitar there, the lead guitar and then the rhythm guitar. Which one is it?
well, I mean, there's three guitars. There's the bass as well.
Oh,
Now,
of course. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right.
so the bass is actually quite easy to put a bass line onto a remix. Now, where most remixes struggle is with the rhythm guitar and with the lead guitar, because you can't just make that shit up. You have
Yeah,
to have a
yeah,
guitarist to play it,
yeah.
right?
Ladies and gentlemen, what Pierre is talking about is tung, tung, ta, ta, tung, ta, tung, ta, tung, tung, ta, ta, tung, ta. That's rhythm guitar. He has a guitar there. So yeah, that's it.
So this is the rhythm guitar,
That's
right?
what makes it. That's what makes it bachata in the first place. Because in the beginning, as you know, Pierre, it was rhythm guitar and lead guitar. That was it in the beginning.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
was no bongo. There was no, gira or whatever. No, it was just guitar because at that time when you hang out with your families and drinking brugal, that's the only instruments available that you have. You know.
Yeah.
So
Uh, so when you're talking about bachata music, you're talking about guitar music, right? So to try and make bachata without guitars is like trying to make a cake without flour.
and and and, and it's interesting because when you do Mariah Carey song, for example, the most popular one that kind of like bolero-ish, when they remix it, you can't really change the structure of the guitar there. You can't really insert the rhythm guitar there. Can you when you remix it?
Well, there's different ways of making a remix. I mean, the proper bachata remixes, what they do is they take what we call the a cappella,
Yeah,
which is basically just the vocals,
yeah,
and all of the other instruments they create from scratch.
right,
So
right.
they'll add the bongos, the guira, the bass, the rhythm guitar, the lead guitar, all from scratch, right? Now, the other way to make a remix is to take a full track,
Yeah,
so it has the singers, it has the piano, it has the synthesizers already there, and you're adding to it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And in that case, no, you're going to struggle to make that bachata because it already has a pop a pop structure of instrumentation. within the music,
Right.
right? So you're trying to fight, you're trying to create a fight within the rhythms of the music, and it doesn't come off, right? But that's not to say that they're not well done or they're not popular
I
or
mean, they
people
sound
don't
good. Don't
like
get me
them.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, people still like dancing to them, but the only problem is when they call it bachata because it's not bachata, right?
Well, yeah,
So
because it looks awkward when you actually do actual bachata steps, you know.
yeah,
But if you do sensual steps or modern step, what I mean by that is traveling step, it kind of makes sense because it goes with the flow, you know.
yeah. I mean, but when we're talking about those sort of early, we call them bongo chatters, right?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. And when you watch the dance floor as a DJ, you can see how it changes the way that people dance,
Yes.
right? Because when you're playing those sort of sensual remixes that are not bachata,
Hmm.
people stop moving their feet,
No. Yeah.
right? And they start doing all the waves, and that's fine because it fits the music. But
Yes, of
then
course. Yes.
there's no bachata in the music, so there's no bachata in the dance,
Yeah.
and you're wondering why are we at a bachata party?
This is this is why, ladies and gentlemen, when we play Romeo or Prince Royce, some people will come up to us as DJs like, "Hey, you're playing too much traditional. You're playing a lot of Dominican bachata there, man." It's like, dude,
Yeah,
you know,
I
that's
know.
because they're like what Pierre said. They're used to this type of flow music, and most of them are actually pretty slow. There's like a even flow there, you know.
But it goes the other way as well, right?
Yeah,
Because the traditional crowd, I mean, they have completely ignored a whole genre, a subgenre of bachata music that is created off the island,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because when people talk about the evolution of the music, they tend to think of it as a linear progression, but
No,
it's
it's
not.
not.
Got lots of branches that come
Yeah,
off,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So like the music evolved outside of DR when it went to America, like with Aventura and stuff, and then from America it came to Europe, and you've got artists like Danny J, and then all of these things are feeding back on each other as
yeah.
well. So you've got all of these different evolutionary strands. So you can go to a nightclub with a bunch of traditional bachateros, and you can play a song by Esme, which is 100% bachata, and they will tell you, "Can you stop playing this sensual shit?" I'm like, "I'm not playing sensual shit. I'm playing bachata music, right?"
Yeah.
So yeah, it goes both ways, and I think this is where I fit in because I don't say that I like modern or sensual or traditional. I say I like bachata,
Right,
right?
right,
And when I say I like bachata, it means everything that's bachata,
correct,
from Raulin to Esme to Johnny
correct.
J
Yeah,
to
yeah.
everything. Yeah. So that's where I'm coming from, anyway.
The thing is, this is why musicality classes are a must
Hmm.
from the get-go, in my opinion, from the get-go, from the beginning, because um, you're right. You know, we could play a Romeo song, we could play a Prince Royce Grupo Extra, we could play Dominic Martin. They're gonna think the traditionalists will think, dude, play some bachata. You know, play some good bachata or whatever. You know, it's like, dude, if you only know the structure of the music, it's the same. The only difference is they added an intro that's slow. There is a pause in the middle of the song, and they added more instrument. Come on, it's still
Yeah.
the same structure. You know?
I mean, if you think of a song like what's it called, Imitadora
Yeah.
by
Yes.
yeah, I mean it's got a minute 10-second intro,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's funny because we were talking about this on Biscuit's show with
Yeah.
some traditional dancers, and we said to them, "So what do you do for the intro?" And they're like, "Oh, we just stand at the bar. We're waiting. We're having a drink. We're."
No, they'll do
I
some
was like,
central moves.
it's like that's half the song you've missed.
Yeah.
What because you don't know how to dance to it,
Yeah.
right? So there is this whole different subgenre of music that the traditional people don't like, and likewise, there's a whole subgenre of music that the sensual people don't like,
Yeah.
and then in the middle, you've got people like me who like everything.
Yeah. I think it's a matter of the taste of the music, in my opinion. You know, there are some traditionalists there that like Romeo came out recently with uh, 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 something in the middle, a modern and traditional descent. I mean, he put it mixed, and just to prove with those people that doesn't know music, he invites Kiko Rodriguez and him, and then singing together,
Yeah,
and kept their own style of playing the guitar. You could tell
yeah,
who the singer is who's playing the guitar because of all the music you heard. It's like, okay, that sounds like Zacharias Ferreira. That sounds like Raulin there, playing the guitar. Yet there is that evolved urban-ish version of it, yet the structure is there. Like
yeah.
with, what's the title that Kiko Rodriguez and Romeo that they sang together? Very popular. For me, I could dance both modern,
Mm.
traditional, or even sensual to the song.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but I mean, this is what people keep saying. They're like, oh, when you're creating these new styles of dances, like the fusions and essentials and stuff, it has to be 80% bachata or 60% bachata, or right. And I try to explain to people it's not about percentages; it's about understanding the structure of a song,
Correct.
right? Because there's certain sections of the song where you should be following the bachata structure, and there's certain sections of the song where you don't have to follow the bachata structure. So, for example, in Imitadora, the intro is just like a complete free form because it's the intro,
Yeah.
and then it drops into the bachata in the verse. Right,
Correct.
so when you're talking about the verse and the chorus, it's the main body of the song which identifies itself as bachata,
Yeah.
and then as dancers, we want to follow that structure in the way that we dance. So it's not about what steps you're doing or what movements you're doing. It's about when you're doing them in that particular song. Does
So
that make sense?
given in that subject, on that trend of thought, Pierre, then if we apply this to dancing, because we already know, we already set the rules here, or not pretty much the rules, we already set and put our impression on the bachata music itself, on its structure, that even though you add instrument, you add intro there, the structure of music of bachata, it's still there, no matter who's singing, right?
Yeah.
Except for remixes, of course. But when it comes to dance, now we're gonna get into traditional, sensual, and moderna. Okay, the structure of traditional bachata. We got the box step, we got the side step, we got the stationary step, we got the front step, back step. That's pretty much it. Okay. Now, what is the structure of sensual, and what is the structure of moderna? And can you trace it from the traditional structure?
Yeah, 100%. Because, like I said, it's about understanding how your basic step is a physical manifestation of a rhythm. If you
Right.
understand that, everything becomes easy, right? Because the basic step of bachata, it has a rhythm. And it doesn't matter whether it's traditional or moderna or sensual, that basic step has the same rhythm. The differences are in the decorations that you apply to that rhythm in terms of movement. So whether you're going a box step or whether you're going side to side or whether you're going turn patterns, as long as you're maintaining that rhythm throughout the song in the places where it's relevant for you to do so, like in the verse and the chorus and not necessarily in the intro,
Right.
then you are dancing bachata because that's how a musician thinks, right?
So how can you trace sensual to its original form in bachata?
Because sensual is basically an extension of moderna, right?
Okay,
So
so
moderna,
you're saying, let me stop you there for a minute. You got traditional, and then modern, and then sensual connected to each other.
yeah. So basically, you have two main branches. You've got your traditional style, which is based on your box step. You've
Correct.
got your moderna style, which is based on your side step, well, your linear steps and your turn patterns,
Linear, yeah.
and then sensual, which is an extension of moderna. So it takes the linear basic, the turn patterns,
And
and
it's
it
also
adds.
circular.
Well, yeah, and it adds the body movement and everything else, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because the weird thing is that sensual is actually related to bolero.
Yes. Yes.
right?
As far as the beat is concerned, do you think it's 3 and 4 or 4 and 4 then?
Well, because sensual, you in a lot of sensual parties, they play a lot of bolero music,
I
right?
know because they think the flow is sensual because
But
they
it
think
is because what's the difference between the bachata basic step and the bolero basic step?
the difference is 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. That's bachata step. Bolero is 1 2 3 silent 4, 1 2 3 silent 4. That means you don't step on the
Yeah.
fourth beat.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the difference is the tap, right?
correct.
So
Tap
so
or step.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
talk to you about that later because I have a peeve about the tap.
I don't know. But you know what I mean.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
people think of bachata basic, step, 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 tap, right?
yeah.
And like when you're the bolero, it doesn't have the tap.
Correct.
So if you look at the sensual basic, it doesn't have the tap. It's 1 2 3 5 6 7 1 2 3. So it has this relationship to bolero that people don't understand. That when they're listening to bolero music, that's why they want to dance that sensual style,
Correct.
because the bolero music isn't asking them to tap. So you have all of these relationships between the music and the dance, which people don't even understand, but they're expressing on the
Yeah,
dance floor.
yeah.
Yeah, and even the teachers don't understand it.
But don't you think modern came from salsa?
This is another one that I hate. Right? Um, yes, it did, but it's not salsa, right? Because
Of course, we know that. Of course, we know
where
that.
did those turn patterns come from?
Most of those movements are from salsa, and most of those patterns are
No,
really. We're not
most of the most of
okay.
those turn patterns came from merengue.
Well, that's yes and no. Okay. Well, yes, but
Because they came from merengue, they brought it into son, and then in son it brought it into salsa.
yeah, but the way I understand salsa, or in this case, mambo. Okay. Um,
Okay,
back in,
mambo and salsa.
yeah, back, but it's much more influenced by hustle than merengue when it comes to movements.
Well, yeah, that too. But I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at merengue, they have all of those moves where you wrap the lady in, you wrap the lady out, you take her into a hammerlock, you
Yeah.
do that
Yeah.
over the head, and all this sort of stuff. This is part of the movements of merengue, right? And if you take a move from one genre, change its rhythm, and put it in another genre, it that doesn't mean that it's now still salsa when
I
you put it
agree.
into
I
bachata,
agree.
right?
I agree.
So yeah, it does have
There's
influence.
nothing wrong with it. All
Right.
I'm saying is that the modern version of bachata is very much influenced by salsa movements.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. In
because
so
it
much that
makes
they have the
sense.
turn patterns.
Why
Yeah,
does it make sense, Pierre? Is because it's traveling. So
Mm.
therefore, you have time to do these patterns or even a traveling turn for that matter.
Yeah,
Whereas,
exactly. Yeah,
traditional, you are on a small spot here, whether it's square or small circle, really.
Mm.
And it's not that it's a rule that they have to break or that they have to follow. It's just is the way it's structured, and so therefore the only thing you could do this is stationary type of turn, maybe a delayed turn, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or maybe just some footwork, which makes sense to me.
yeah, 100%.
But what doesn't make sense to me is, well, it makes sense to me, but when it comes to sensual, it does not make sense to me to do those moves in a bachata song.
Okay, this is where it's got it's got distorted, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, sensual evolved as an extension of moderna, right? So the sensual moves are like the it's like the icing on the cake, right? So a cake is a cake. You can add icing to the cake, but
Sure.
if you take the cake away and you're left with the icing,
It's
then
just
it's
the
not a
icing.
cake.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So what's happened is that people are now concentrating more on the sensual movements, and they're forgetting about the actual footwork that is the bachata,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think it's is because of the way that it's taught, and the way that it's consumed, because it's not really learned anymore. It's become a consumer product. So we don't have students, we have consumers. And the thing about consumers is that they want content, right? So you're always having to teach new moves week on week, just to keep yourself relevant and keep students coming back and everything else. Whereas, like, if you're teaching the dance, you don't have to reinvent moves all the time, right? Because, like, say you're teaching salsa. I've been teaching salsa for 16, 17 years now, and I teach the same moves every week. Inside turn, outside turn, left hand turn, right hand turn, copa. It's all variations on that. And what I'm doing is I'm teaching the students how to use those techniques and build routines for themselves rather than pre-packaging the moves and force feeding them to the students, right?
Right.
And like when you think about the central moves, like the head rolls, the dips, and everything else, they're in musical terms what we would call fills.
Right. Right. Correct.
So you have your basic rhythm,
Yeah.
and you decorate that rhythm with like transitional steps, or your syncopated steps, or your head rolls, or your booty rolls, and everything else. So if you're going to do a big head roll, put it at the end of a musical phrase. Yeah, don't just randomly put it in the middle of a bar where it doesn't make sense.
That's what I meant about timing in the first place. But
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and that's what I meant at the beginning. It's not about what moves you do; it's about when you do them, and whether it's appropriate for you to do them there. If you're going to stand still in the middle of the mambo section without moving your feet and just wave, wave,
yeah,
wave, head roll,
yeah,
it doesn't make sense because it's in the wrong part of the song for you to
right.
be doing that.
Now, I was talking to Dima the other day about labeling because that's really what the problem is with this division that we have in bachata with some dancers. Some think that sensual and modern are mislabeling bachata because they want to make money, and since that's where people want to go. They can't just name sensual because they can't. It has to relate to something, right? Uh, my theory with this, Pierre, and tell me if you agree, because I mentioned this many times already. Um, Look, bachata in the beginning it's not about music. Bachata in the beginning is not about dance, okay? In
No,
Dominican Republic, bachata, if you say, hey, let's go bachata, that means let's go party. Let's drink brugal. So
it's the
while
same
you're
with
dancing,
kizomba.
yeah, just like
Kizomba means
Kizomba. It's a
party.
family party or a friend's party. You have brugal, you dance to reggaeton, you dance to son, you dance to merengue. That's considered bachata, okay? And at that time, the music that they played at that time with uh, the evolution of Bolero, whatnot, they call it música de amargue. They did not call it bachata, okay? The dancers that were dancing to música de amargue were not called bachateros. They were just called dancers, okay?
Yeah.
Depending on where they came from, if they came from La Vega, those are the dancers from La Vega, those are the dancers from Bunao. But they never called them their bachateros, okay? Maybe one of our Dominican friends can explain to me how the hell the music turned out to be bachata as it's called now. How the hell the dance is now called bachata? Nobody knows. Maybe it's my limited knowledge because I didn't grow up in the Dominican Republic and I don't know the whole history of it. And so now it makes sense for me when you used to say all of this other style, it's an umbrella of bachata. I used to get annoyed when you say that, by the way, because it didn't make sense to me. But now we got sensual, we got modern, we got trap chata, I don't care chata, and we got traditional, or I don't want to call it traditional. We got a type of bachata, how the way they dance it in the Dominican Republic. That's bachata because of the idea of bachata is a party bachata is a gathering and involves everything on it. I mean, does that relate to your umbrella concept?
Yeah, 100%. Because even when it comes to the music, there are different subgenres of bachata music, right? But it's all bachata, but you have like romantic bachata, you have electronic bachata, you have traditional bachata, you have like bachata fusions, you have
Here, what do you consider traditional bachata music?
well music that comes from the island.
Okay.
Yeah, um,
Like what?
like your sort of Anthony Santos is your Zacarias,
Yeah, but
your
that's bachata. That's not traditional.
it is okay. So right when we
Okay, we had different opinions. Say what I consider traditional bachata in the Dominican Republic is bolero.
but that's not traditional bachata, it's bolero.
Yeah, but that's where it came from.
But it has a name, it's bolero, right?
Because when somebody traditional bachata, what are you talking about? You mean the new album of Anthony Santos, the new album of Luis Vargas, and even Zacarias Ferreira? You
Yeah,
wouldn't consider that traditional bachata?
yeah, because it conforms to the traditional structure of bachata music. What's another word for traditional?
What do you mean?
What's another word for traditional? It's cultural,
It's
right?
cultural. Yeah.
Okay, so that is when you're talking about the dance and the music, traditional is the best word for it because it's conforming to the culture of the Dominican Republic, of the country of origin, of its motherland, right? So when you talk about a traditional spaghetti bolognese, right? It doesn't mean that they don't eat spaghetti bolognese nowadays. It just means that it's a traditional recipe.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, like, people have got the complete misunderstanding of the word traditional.
Wait. I think you just made a good point here. So can we then call it traditional bachata, the dance?
Yes,
I hate the
because,
term, man. It sounds old.
but it's not. Traditional just means it's according to the culture.
According to what you explained, the way your definition, that makes sense that we can call it traditional. That makes sense because it gives respect to the culture and,
Yeah,
and the way they practice it in the Dominican Republic. That makes more sense to me now than when I was talking to Dima.
yeah. But that's what I mean. Tradition is when you talk about traditions, you're talking about history. You're talking about culture. These are the things that we want dancers to learn about. So for me, calling it traditional bachata is actually a respectful way of referring to it because we're referring to those traditions, those customs, that history.
What do you
So
think of the term Dominican bachata?
um, yeah, I'm okay with it.
It
Uh,
does distinguish it from the other styles, of course,
it does.
and it gives respect that it is actually the Dominican bachata, the way they dance it in the Dominican Republic. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you have an artist making songs in the US and it conforms to the traditional structure, is it Dominican bachata or is it international bachata?
That's a good point. That's a good point
So
right there. Yeah.
that's why I prefer traditional because it
Yeah.
doesn't limit it to the island, right?
Right. Right.
It's talking about the actual structure. So when you're thinking about traditional bachata, you're talking about music which has only those five instruments and only like it has Derecho Mahal, Mambo, those sections. It doesn't have
Got
the
Riquinto
pop.
there. Yeah.
It doesn't have the R&B breaks. It doesn't have the fusions and everything else. So it's the
Not much.
purest.
Yeah.
So it's the purest form of the music,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then when you go off the island, that's when you start getting into the fusions, the other instruments and everything else. So like your Date and Besos, your imitadoras, your like all those sort of things where you've got fusions coming in, other instruments coming in, right? So that's modern, what I would call modern music.
Right.
And for me, they're the two main variants. I don't, I wouldn't say that there is sensual bachata music because sensual bachaderos they will dance to modern music, they'll dance to traditional songs, they'll dance to Bolero. When people ask for sensual bachata music, what they're asking for is not a specific genre. They're asking for something that they can dance their style to. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
it's not a specific genre to itself.
So then let's go back to the term bachata.
Yeah,
How would you define it if you have your own personal definition? The
music or
dance, not it.
dance.
Yeah.
Okay, so bachata is anything that, for the majority of the dance, conforms to the rhythm of bachata.
Makes
So
sense.
that's it.
Makes sense. That's it put it the description is clear there. Yeah, I agree.
Because
Uh,
it's the same description for the music and the dance. The music is music which conforms to the rhythmic structure of bachata.
yeah, yeah.
Same for the dance.
If you could define it in one word, what would it be?
Bachata.
Here, come on.
How can you define it in one word?
You can't, but you can put your own definition with it. Like for me, bachata is a feeling.
So is pain. So is
Both.
happiness.
It could be both. It could be happy. It could be pain. It could be sadness. It could be joy. You
But
know?
if you're saying bachata is a feeling,
Yeah.
then that doesn't mean anything to anyone. Because salsa is a feeling. Kizomba is a feeling. I mean, it's not really a. I understand what you mean,
Right.
but it's not really a helpful description,
No,
is
it's
it?
not. It's not. But again, it's my own definition. It's a feeling for me. Bachata is a feeling. So every time I dance it, I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which goes back to the beginning. What the hell are you talking about? Feel the music.
Well,
What?
say, I guess like same thing for me. When I dance to timba,
Yeah,
I feel it.
yeah.
You know. So
But I think that is the problem. I think as teachers, we need to be better equipped to answer the question of what do you mean when you say feel it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because just telling a student to feel it, it doesn't help them at all.
No, it doesn't because it's more of like a personalized type of description. You know.
Yeah, this is how I feel it.
Yeah. you know. Uh, what else? What else is the other that we need to talk about here about like controversial stuff? Because I think Daniel has been posting here.
I've been checking.
You gotta check Daniel because he's been posting like crazy. Poor Daniel.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's basically saying stuff that we've been talking about before,
Right.
because like he's saying that people listen to modern music in Dominican Republic, so they will listen to songs like Date and Beso and like all the Romeo stuff as well. Like there's a famous video by Adam Taub of a nightclub in Dominican Republic where they're dancing to Date and Beso, and one of the things that Daniel says a lot is that like part of the feeling from the modern community, the schooled community, if you like, is that when they watch people dancing bachata in Dominican, it's not the way that they would want to dance because to them it looks boring, if you like, right?
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
And when people take stuff up as a hobby, they want to learn, they want to progress, right? So I 100% agree that Dominican bachata is not easy. And it takes a long time to learn it, and it takes a long time to get the feeling, it takes a long time to get the body movement, it takes a long time to understand the whole thing that is Dominican bachata. But for Bob the accountant from Croydon, he just wants to go down to the nightclub and dance with girls,
Yeah.
right? And to do that, he needs to have some moves,
Yeah.
right? So that's what he's going for. He doesn't care about how they dance in the Dominican Republic.
Right.
He doesn't want to take 10 years to get that bachata feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
under his belt before he can go out and have fun. He wants to go out on the first night and dance with someone.
Correct.
Right?
Now,
So, so we're catering for these different audiences.
yeah, but okay, let's get into the technical aspects of the dance. What's your pet peeve?
About dancing or bachata.
Bachata.
Um, my pet peeve is that people are not aware enough of the music.
How can you tell?
It's something that we call phrasing,
Correct.
right? When you're watching people dance, music is created in phrases, yeah, and it has like the intro is a phrase, the verse is a phrase, the chorus is a phrase, but you don't dance the same way in each phrase, right?
Doesn't
And
that
you,
doesn't that in itself musicality in general?
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Okay.
I mean, I've actually got this thing where musicality for me is four basic concepts.
Yeah.
It's timing, rhythm, phrasing, and dynamics. Right? And this is how I teach it, whether I'm teaching an instrument or whether I'm teaching people how to dance. Once
Yeah.
you understand those four things, you understand musicality. But the biggest place where you can tell is in their phrasing, right? Because if they're creating phrases with their movement which don't match the phrasing in the music, then for me that's not that. It's just obvious that they don't have musicality.
Right. Right. I mean, like when I hear mambo version, the mambo version of the music, right, Pierre, is that people are still doing the same movement doing with the verse of the music. I was like, okay, where's the musicality here? Where's the, that's what I mean about feeling. Where's the feeling here? How are they not feeling this music? How come this feeling, how come their feel is all neutral all the way to the end? Because the music is not a, it doesn't have a same tone and beat like this. It goes like this,
Yeah,
okay? So how come you're doing a movement that's all like this? There's no changes.
because teachers don't explain when to use moves, right? They will teach you a
Ah,
box step.
that's the key right there. When to use the movement.
Yeah,
What's the proper, should we call it timing? Because like comedians, they have the right timing to put in the punchline, right?
yeah.
Uh, you know,
But it's like when you teach the box step, right? You teach the basic box step, and then you teach all the syncopation variations,
correct, correct.
right?
Yeah,
Now, if you don't teach the students when to use those syncopated variations, then they're going to use them wherever they like,
and it
right?
becomes mechanical and robotic.
Well, they just put it in the wrong place. So when when they're dancing in the verse, it's like one of the things that I try to explain to my students is the role of the verse and the role of the chorus.
Correct.
So like in the verse, when the music is composed in such a way that the instruments, well, that what happens in the verse is that the singer is telling the story, right? So as each verse carries out, the story unfolds throughout the course of the verses, right? And the the converse of that is the chorus. Now, in the chorus, the role of the music is to get you involved. That's why the chorus has the same lyrics, why it has the catchy melody, right? So because it wants to get you, the listener, involved in the music. So in the verse, your role is to listen to the story. In the chorus, your role is to get involved,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But what
So
if they don't understand Spanish?
well, you don't have to understand Spanish to understand that this is the verse and this is the chorus.
Yeah,
You just need to listen to the grill,
yes,
right?
yeah,
So typically in the verse they go for derecho, and in the chorus they go to mahal. So
yeah,
the rhythm changes between those two sections, so you can hear it even if you don't understand the language,
yeah,
right? So as long as you, if you're in the verse and you're doing loads of footwork, syncopations, you're not listening to the story. Yeah.
yeah,
So you want to use those syncopations in the chorus where you're meant to use them.
yeah. But
Yeah.
Daniel is just asking, isn't the way you dance subjective?
Yeah. But this is what I say to my students. I mean, there's two different things. There's musical interpretation and there's musicality. They're not
Ah,
the same thing.
Two big difference. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Musical
got.
interpretation, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
No one can tell you that you're wrong. That is your personal interpretation of music. But when it comes to musicality, it's about interpreting the music in a way that makes sense to someone else.
yeah,
Because it's about being able to translate the music into visual form so that someone else can understand it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to the labeling because this is probably going to be the center of attraction when we do part three of this video. And by the way, Daniel, you are the fourth person on part three because you comment a lot. So you're qualified to be the fourth person next week. So it'll be me, Pierre, Dima, and Daniel Chongo. Let's go back to the labeling. Okay, I'm a new guy. I don't know what the fuck bachata is. I don't know what salsa is. I go to YouTube, okay, and I see, let's say, Kiki and Nair, okay, and they're dancing. It's like, oh my God, what is this type of dance? And it says on the title, bachata. Is that false advertisement? Would that be considered bachata without the description of adjective, without the adjective in it? Is there something wrong with it, or it should be just called, they miss the other style, bachata sensual? But if it's just bachata, is there something wrong with that?
It depends on the context, right? Because it is bachata, because we're talking about an umbrella term now.
Correct, correct.
So it is bachata, but specifically it's sensual bachata,
Right.
right?
But it didn't say sensual. Would
But
that
it didn't need
considered
to.
be would that considered a false advertisement?
No, because it is bachata.
Okay.
It's like saying um, is Esme bachata?
Okay. So
Yeah,
when I go to a club and I say Georgette and Pierre dancing to Dominican bachata, it's like, hey, what are they dancing? Bachata. I said, wait a minute. I saw in the other video that was bachata. This is bachata. How come they not dancing differently?
okay, so if you go to Cali in Colombia, if you go to LA, if you go to New York, if you go to Cuba, and you say that they're all dancing salsa, they all look very different.
But they're not gonna tell you that they're dancing salsa. They're, if you go to Cuba, they're gonna say they're dancing casino. If
Well,
you
okay, okay, take Cuba out of it. If you
okay,
go to Cali, New York, and LA, they're all dancing salsa.
they never call it salsa in Colombia. They just call it Cali. The only people that
They
really
call
call
it
it
salsa.
salsa are
Yeah.
the Western world.
Oh,
In
they call
fact,
it
it was not even called. You know what salsa is? That's food. That's a sauce.
they call it salsa in
I
Colombia.
know somebody created salsa, but it was not officially. That's not the name, as you know.
But you can't judge something by someone who knows nothing about it, right? So just because they misunderstand, right? That's not your problem, right? If I walk into a salsa class some in some club in Croydon, my local area,
Mm.
and I've never taken a salsa class, how do I know if I'm walking into a Cuban class or a crossbody
Oh, you
class
will
or
know. You will
onto?
know.
Okay, so that's the first style that you're introduced to,
And
and
you're
then
right.
as your world expands, you get introduced to all of the other things that come under
And it's
that one.
up to you to make a choice, or it's up
Yeah,
to you to like one, prefer one, or it's up to you to prefer all.
yeah. But I mean, like as many people have already said, I mean, a lot of people have come into bachata through sensual, even Dima, right? And then he found traditional, and
Yeah.
he found that he preferred traditional, and that's great.
Well, it makes sense because, like Danny, like Dima, and others, when you become an advanced student, you tend to explore the roots of the original dance. It's a
Yeah,
given. Like for me, when I studied Kenpo in martial arts, I was like, where are all of this movement come from? Where did martial arts come from? Kinda. It's like, and then I studied Okinawan karate because, like, I thought, okay, it's one of the most authentic one. Let me go to the roots. And then you get kung fu, Bodhidharma, studying all of these animal movements, and then went to Okinawa. I was like, okay, I want to get there. So it's more of like the attitude of an advancing student, in my opinion,
yeah.
not the beginners.
No, but um, it's like saying, oh, if someone If someone advertises a red velvet cake, everyone's going to think that that's the only cake that there is. There's tons of different cakes.
So,
Just
so,
because you've only ever eaten red velvet cake doesn't mean that all these other cakes don't exist.
so I think my impression then with, I wouldn't call it division because it's really not a big division in our bachata community. Okay, most people are learning every style now so that they can learn what they can dance with everyone. That is, the problem then is that when somebody prefer just one dance, either they look down on that person or they think he's a snob. The It's vice versa with sensual, and in my opinion, we shouldn't have that attitude because we cannot dictate nor demand a person to like a certain dance because that's the real dance. We can't do that because, like you said, a beginner went to a club and he liked that type of dance, so therefore he wanted to learn it. Later on, when there are other choices that he sees, maybe he could prefer the other one and learn it, or maybe he could prefer all and learn it all. But that's not to say that this person who only dance Dominican, traditional that is, the only dance traditional, should be looked down upon because he's a purist. No, he just prefers that way. And vice versa, the person who's a purist should not look down on other people that wants to dance other dances. That's their choice. It's not a matter of whether it's a gospel or not. You know,
And like just like to address that whole thing that where people say that you can't call it bachata because it's something else now, right? What language do you speak?
I mean, I even got to the part where the issue of evolution and innovation, and I treat this other style as innovation. I never really called evolution because for me, the evolution of bachata is the music. Let's say Romeo, that evolved into urban bachata, but you still have the structure, the
Yeah.
dance, the traditional bachata evolved into what we call in United States Dominican bachata because it has a lot of footwork. That's the evolution. But I can't call sensual an evolution of bachata. Maybe you're right, an evolution of moderna, okay? And because it has no trace whatsoever into the original movement of bachata.
Okay, right. But when you're talking about sensual, right, there is it's not a specific style. There is a whole spectrum of artists that
You're
say
right.
that you're sensual bachata,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Some of these artists, who have we got? Like even like Corky and Judith, they're at the more bachata end because you can see the bachata in
Right.
their sensual bachata,
Yeah.
right? But then when you move to the other end of the spectrum, it's just the sensual, and they do a couple of basics every now and again,
Yeah.
and they call it bachata.
But you notice that Corky and Judith has changed a little bit. You know,
Yeah,
their style is evolving. So is Daniel and Desiree.
yeah.
Their style is evolving there where you can really trace a lot of bachata steps there now. In fact, I shared, this is probably the only first time I've ever shared their video. There's one video that they filmed where dancing, they were dancing all styles in one bachata there, played by Romeo and Kiko Rodriguez, that song. If you want traditional, you could see it there. You want sensual, you could see it there. You could moderna, you could see there, which I didn't mind sharing because man, no, that's how you do it, you know?
But for me, it really is simple. Whether it's music or dance, it's either bachata or it's not, right? And within that label of bachata, it depends on the song that I'm dancing to. If I'm dancing to Kiko Rodriguez, I will dance bachata that fits that style of music. If I'm dancing to Prince Royce, I will dance bachata that fits that style of music. If I'm dancing to Esme, I'll dance bachata which fits that style of music. And
So
if I'm dancing to a bongo chata, I'm not going to dance bachata.
are you for just one room instead of two then?
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's my background. I
What do you
grew up,
say? What do you say to people who only wants to dance traditional and with traditional music?
I asked them why.
Because that's what they like. That's what they prefer. They don't feel the other music.
Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, like, there doesn't have to be
which means
There can be different types of parties. You can have a traditional party. You can have a. Not every event has to follow the same formula.
now if you were to play in one room and you
Hmm.
got all kinds of dancers there, and it's only bachata, right?
Hmm.
How would you mix your music?
Um, I've the way that I do it is I find the sweet spot, right?
Yeah,
The way that you find the sweet spot is to start off with your middle of the road bachata that appeals to everyone,
which is
like
which
Romeo,
is
Romeo,
okay.
right? So
Good.
you start off with Romeo, and then you watch how people are dancing, right? And then you can see how many of them are going side to side, how many of them are staying stationary, how many of them are doing waves, and you're like, okay, so that's my crowd, right? And then what you do is like they say you can't please 100% of the people all the time, right? The trick is to please a minimum of 60% of the people all the time, but a different 60% with each song, right? So if you appeal to one crowd with one song, you want to shift it a little bit so that you keep getting different sections of the crowd involved with your music so
Mhm.
that nobody is sitting out for 10 songs in a row.
Right.
Yeah? But where DJs get it wrong is, like, especially Moderna DJs, is they'll play 10 Moderna songs and then a crazy fast Dominican song.
Yeah, my pet peeve with modern DJs is that they play Moderna songs, and all of those Moderna songs, let's say they play five Moderna songs straight, right? My problem is it's the same freaking beat for five songs. So if you
100.
go slow Moderna, it's slow. Everybody fell asleep. Maybe not, but maybe
No, I
not.
know what you mean.
And then when you play Dominican bachata or traditional bachata, DJs, traditional bachata is not just fast bachata. There are slow bachata, there are medium to slow, there are medium speed type of traditional bachata. Because here's what annoys me, because most people think that when you play traditional bachata, it's damn fast. That is fake news. You know? And this is why this is because all of these DJs that doesn't know music of bachata, they play fast bachata when it comes to traditional bachata. Please stop that.
Yeah, but I mean, if you play a wide selection of bachata music within the sort of 120 to 130 BPM range, you're going to keep most people happy,
Yeah, but
right?
I don't like the idea of setting one set of BPM. And
No,
this
it's
is my
not. I
pet
mean, that-
peeve. This is my pet peeve with all the DJs. Dude, can you just play, forget the BPM, okay? Play the song from the beginning to end,
yeah.
pause, and then play. Don't go straight so that, see, it's so convenient for DJs to do that because it's not a lot of work.
Mm.
And that's my pet peeve. And so whenever I have a DJ like that, either I instruct them to not to do it, which I don't want to do it, or not hire them.
Yeah. No, I mean you don't have to mix. I'm not saying you have to mix, but that's your wheelhouse, right? If you want to keep everyone happy, you're playing bachata music 120 to 130. Now to keep the fringes happy, you have to drop it down to about 115 with your central remixes to keep your central people happy, and you want to take it up to about 145, 150 to keep the other guys happy. So it's knowing to you want to find your center, you want to find your upper limit, you want to find your lower limit, and that's how you keep your crowd happy.
Yeah, now, okay, so what's your top five songs?
What for a mixed crowd or for
In general, when it comes to bachata.
in general?
Yeah.
Oh wow! Now you're asking.
Because it's very easy to say, hey, what's your top five traditional songs? Like, that's so easy, man.
Okay, so my top five
No,
songs.
I'm sorry, up here. It's for us non-Spanish speaking like me. Let's just say, what's your top five singers? How about
No,
that?
no, no, I'll go for top five songs. I'm happy
Okay,
with
all
that.
right, all right, all right.
Okay, so Take Strangler by
Aha.
Aquino.
Why? That's too classic, isn't it?
It's a beautiful song, and you can dance it with a wide range of dancers, and it's got some nice breaks in it
Agree,
and
agree.
everything else. Um, uh, Player for Sure by Toby Love.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
That's a no, that's really urbanized right there, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's got loads of breaks. There's loads of different rhythms and that you can play around with. Um, 24 Horas by Grupo 24 Horas.
Of course, yeah.
Again, like loads of breaks to play with. Um, what else we got?
We got Samba.
Um, El Hombre de Tu Vida by Joe
Okay,
Veras.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Would you consider
and
that a slow song or fast song?
Slow.
Okay.
Yeah. And a song called Eroe by J Diamante.
I haven't heard of that. Is it
Yeah,
new?
no, it's an old one,
Oh, yeah,
sort of 2012-ish,
yeah.
but it's on the modern side. I mean, I'm not going to make a big deal. I prefer modern bachatas
Mm,
because it's more of what I grew up with.
pretty much, yeah.
Um,
I understand that. Yeah. Now,
but yeah,
when you listen to a song you like, is it because of the voice of the singer or is it because of the uh, rhythm?
it's more the structure of the song, right?
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like songs that have breaks in them, that have different feels in them, that um, that that ask you to dance differently,
Yeah.
yeah, rather than just dancing the same all the way through. So all of those songs that I mentioned, that they have different sections and different breaks and like R&B breakdowns and
Yeah.
like different. It's got nice texture to the song.
It's like let's say for example Kiko Rodriguez. He doesn't have the best voice, but damn, can he play, right?
Yeah, 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 100%.
I
Yeah.
mean, his music is like now for me, it's the voice. That's my own preference. Like for example, Dominic Marte.
Mm.
No one can beat his voice. No one.
Yeah.
And then we have unique voice. I mean, Dominic Marte. I've never asked him this whether he was trained or not when it comes to singing because it seems like natural. Then we have unique voice like Juan Soriano. That's a unique voice. It's a raspy uh, type of voice. We got Luis Vargas when it's like a bass. There's that bass type of machismo type of voice while crying at the same time. So for me, it depends on the quality of voice.
Yeah, I think so. Um, I mean, there's lots of things which people um, pick up on in a song. But yeah, I mean, some people prefer listening to the voice, some people listen to the guitar. But for me, it's about the actual structure of the song, how the song evolves from the start to the finish.
How can we make the bachata community coexist on every style?
Um, by actually agreeing on things between the top teachers. Right? The problem is that the people at the top level, it doesn't matter whether they're the traditional guys or the modern guys or the central guys, they never agree on anything.
Well, but it's the same thing in politics, right? You never agree on anything because I don't know why people can't be neutral. Uh, that that people just have to go to the extreme on each side. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be. Can we just go into the middle and appreciate all the things, all the innovations that the world has to offer? You
But
know,
this is why I get into so many arguments because I do sit in the middle.
you sit in the middle. They get annoyed because he's like, man, he plays both sides. It's like, no, I think he's just a logical person. It's like common sense. I do enjoy when you debate because you know they throw you some type of a phrase and you break that down to like 10 pieces with cake mix. There's the shit out of that.
But that's why I don't get any backup either.
No, but the thing is, the thing is, it's a little different, Pierre, when you right And when you talk right here, like just like when we talk like this, it's like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
it's much more of a healthier debate than writing, because writing, we don't know what the emotions behind it. We can't see it.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, and this is the same thing with Carlos Rufino, by the way, because he talks like he do it in Facebook, but when you see him face to face, he's not really trying to, kill you or anything, So it's the written word that could be misconstrued, and this is why we're definitely gonna have this part 3 with Daniel, and if I think that's about right, because if we have 4 people, we could control the discussion a little bit, as opposed to a lot of people. It's hard to control for me as a moderator. But Pierre, I want to thank you for everything you've done for me. Meaning, you support my festivals. You've come to my festival. You DJ at my festivals. You haven't taught yet,
No.
but you've done that for me. You supported me, and whenever me and Isidra goes to UK or London, you treat us good. You are accommodating, and I just want to thank you for that.
That's all right. Uh, I love having you here. It's always great to have you over here. And I love working at your festivals as well, because they're
What's your
they're
impression of
quality events.
what's your impression of the American festival versus the European festivals, by the way?
Um, I mean, I've actually done a few festivals in the US. I've done yours,
Yeah.
and we go over to Orlando a lot. So I've been to OSC a few times. I've worked at TSBF as well, and they're just a different scale. It's like the size of the hotels for a start.
But would you say in the bachata style, which is more dominant
What, in terms of dancing?
instead of dancing in America and in Europe?
Uh, in I still think in America they're more moderna than sensual, right?
Agreed. Agreed.
Um, there, there's people that are trying to bring up the level of sensual. Like um, in Orlando, there's a guy called Daniel Castillo,
Yeah.
and he's running a lot of like the sensual events, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I've worked for him a couple of times. But I think they are still very much moderna there.
I agree. And Europe, you think is sensual, huh?
Uh, in terms of teaching,
At least that's
yeah,
what I see when I go, dude.
yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
But actually, in Europe, I would still say that moderna is danced a lot, but it's not necessarily taught a lot,
Or
right?
even promote a lot, because as far
Yeah.
as I know, I mean, the one who's traveling all over the world mostly that does Moderna is Ataka Alimana. I can't think of anyone else.
No,
Yeah.
no, not at all. We were having this discussion on Biscuit Show as well, because he was saying that they are literally the only people that you could point to and say these guys are moderna,
Well, that's
and
not to say that
he's to the
that's
point.
not to say that Tigre and Bianca doesn't do that as well. It's the same.
Yeah, but I mean they're all the same company, aren't they? It's Island Touch.
Island touch. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But I do think a lot of people still dance moderna, especially the sort of not so young bachateros. Like you're talking your 40 to 60-year-old bachateros.
Yeah.
They're dancing more moderna than sensual.
Who
Right?
are your well, let me start by asking you last questions here. How the hell did you start dancing?
um, I started dancing salsa
Uh-huh.
with an old girlfriend in 2001.
Yeah.
I started dancing Cuban salsa, and then we broke up, and I carried on dancing salsa. Um, and my first experience of bachata was actually I met Zoe through salsa,
Mm-hmm.
and we went on holiday to Madrid, and there was a little club in Madrid that did salsa dancing, but they were doing it on a weird rotation. They were doing three salsas, two reggaeton, and one other song. And I was like, what is this? I don't understand what this music is and what are they dancing? And I found out it was bachata. So, and at that time, even in like 2003, 2003. This was they were doing Moderna side to side, forward and back turns and everything else. And then I sort of learned. I really got into it when Tony Lara started promoting it in Europe,
Yeah.
and we hosted him. He used to come and stay with us, and we'd have him teach at our club. And this was back in like 2004. But the only people really teaching it in my area at that time were Tony Lara, Iñaki Fernandez,
Mackie, yeah. Frank
and
Santos.
Frank Santos,
Yeah.
and they were all in the UK at that time. Well, around that time. So the majority of my lessons were with Iñaki, and he was an amazing teacher. And
Really,
he had,
really one of the first Moderno teacher there, yeah?
yeah, but he also had a good grounding in like Dominican traditional,
Mm,
right?
mm.
Because when I learned from him, we were learning box steps, we were learning campanas, we were learning all of those sort of steps,
Yeah, yeah,
but fused with his Madrid crossover steps as well.
of course,
So,
of course.
so it was a bit of everything, um, and I think people forget that the the three people, the three musketeers,
The three
Tony,
musketeers.
Iñaki, and Frank Santos. Frank
Tony's
was
still kicking alive. Frank Santos still kicking. It's Iñaki that's MIA.
he's still around,
Okay.
uh, but what they forget is that Frank was Dominican.
Yes,
Iñaki taught a lot of Dominican.
yes.
So when you say that there's no real roots back to Dominican, there is, because those guys were the three main people that were spreading Moderna around Europe.
But,
So they
but
they knew.
we both know that Frank didn't start as traditional style. He started as Moderna.
Yeah, but he's still he's a Dominican, born and bred. So you can't tell him that
I
he
can say
doesn't
the same thing with Joe Quinones, who is also Dominican, but did not embrace the traditional part of it.
But yeah, but I think yeah,
It's a matter of preference. That's what I
it is
say.
a matter of preference. But anyway, that's how I got into it. So I've been dancing and teaching and DJing since 2004. But I didn't really have that many teachers because there weren't there wasn't anyone in my country
Yeah,
for me
not
to
at
learn
that
it from.
time. Yeah,
And there wasn't even YouTube at that time, so
yeah.
I couldn't even go onto YouTube and learn it. So a lot of the stuff I had to sort of work out from first principles. So I would listen to the music, I'd catalog the music. I whenever I went to congresses, I'd always take bachata lessons from whoever I could find, and just sort of pieced it together from there. And then when Carlos Cinta released his DVD in 2010, that's when I really started getting into breaking down the music and doing the
I was just
musicality.
going to ask you that. Who are your influences when it comes to voice salsa and bachata, when it comes to teaching the art?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to musicality in bachata, I mean, it is Carlos Cinta definitely. But I mean, I was lucky enough to do musicality in salsa as well. So I had people like Osvaldo, Frankie Martinez, like all of those guys. Yeah, so I had a big background of learning salsa musicality, and plus my background as a musician as well.
Sure.
So yeah,
Now, when
and
you're
then,
dancing socially,
mhm.
is it all about her?
No, it's all about us.
That's what a Leo would say. So no, that's good.
Because it's not all about your partner. It's about finding a way to explore the music together.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's what I always
Which makes it
try to
fun.
tell.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Now, Pierre, you recently came out with a website that features musicality breakdown, especially in bachata. Can
yeah,
you explain that to us more and where they can find it?
yeah. The website is called emusicality.co.uk. What it is there's about 4 or 5 songs on there, 5 songs on there at the moment. And what I've done is I've been lucky enough to speak to the people who produce those songs, and I've got the individual segunda track, the requinto track, the bongo track, so that you can dismantle
Oh,
those songs so that you can like listen to just the bongo or just the requinto or whatever mix you want of those. And it also helps you by showing you the phrasing of the song. So it tells you when you're in the verse and when you're in the chorus and what
Yeah.
rhythm is going on and how the counting works. So it's a very good tool for learning the structure of the music. I must apologize because it takes a bit of a long time to load. So make sure that you're on Wi-Fi at the moment. I'm working on a new version of it, which is quicker to load. But yeah,
Yeah.
be patient with it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not seen that site, you got to go, because especially if you, not only if you're just beginning into bachata or even you're advanced bachata, but you never really explored the breakdown of the music of and the musicality of bachata, you need to go to that site, because you will learn a lot. It will help you a lot, especially in your social dancing, and even just feeling the music as it were. Um,
I mean, it actually builds on the concepts that Carlos Sinter, like he's the godfather of it all.
of course he is.
But
Yeah.
I just took his concepts and his concepts from the DVD and tried to make it a bit more interactive,
Right.
so you can play with it. Yeah,
All right. So, I will see you next week, buddy. Say hi to your wifey and your two kids.
yeah. Likewise, say hello to Isidra.
Yeah, she's at work right now. She'll be home probably a little later, but I hope to see you again when this pandemic is over. I mean,
Yeah,
dude,
definitely. One day, one day.
one day, one day. But anyhow, I'll see you and Chongo next week. We'll
Yeah.
schedule it on what day, okay?
Okay. Cool.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care.